from the way that the Democrats did dirty to Bernie Sanders, that their game plan is always to attack anyone that threatens them. Now we know they've been going into RFK Jr. as well. She said this on the Impact Theory podcast recently. Here's the clip that's going viral. What my gut tells me right now is that we just have to keep being honest. I gotta just keep being honest. I gotta keep focusing on what matters the most outside of party lines. I need to focus on a vision.
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Oh, it actually happened. Now, I knew it was going to happen. I'm not entirely surprised. I'm just elated. I'm so incredibly happy. RFK Jr. does the right thing, stands on the right side of history, and does so in the most courageous manner possible. You know, people will tell you RFK Jr.'s right wing, he's a conspiracy theorist, he's in Trump's pocket, but of course we know that not to be true. RFK Jr. is sacrificing so much to do this. He's been completely exiled from the Kennedy family.
And I do worry that Bobby just taking some percentage of votes from Biden could shift the election and lead to Trump's election.
He's trading in on Camelot, celebrity, conspiracy theories, and conflict for personal gain and fame.
He's spoken previously that if he ever was to team up or endorse Donald Trump, that his wife would divorce him.
You had been asked whether you would accept a position on the ticket if Trump asked you, and I think your response was, that would be devastating to my marriage.
I think Bobby knows me very well.
Okay. I think that's also why he's not saying anything.
Certainly, there's a lot of personal damage that could incur if RFK Jr. was to choose this path, yet he did it anyway, and that is so incredibly powerful. I mean, we're talking about courage. Democrats talk a big game about courage, but they don't ever display actual courage. You know, they say we're going to stand up to all these great capitalists, corporations, and then they're literally sucking the toes of these corporations. They don't do anything courageous. All they do is run and hide. They don't want to debate. They don't want to have discussions. They don't want to be interviewed. They don't want to face scrutiny. They only want to show up in very comfortable little pushy environments. They can control the conversation.
You need a businessman or a businesswoman to run your business. Never no legal lying lawyers. They lie for a living. That's what we have running our business right now. That's the reason why we're $35 trillion in debt. Both parties, the Democrat rat party, the Republican fucking clown party. Both parties consist of legal lying lawyers.
Control the dynamic, and of course spread their dishonest propaganda. That's not courage, that's a manipulation. What RFK Jr. is doing, what Donald Trump has been doing, that's freaking courage. Standing up to these totally corrupted and co-opted organizations, and frankly the corrupt Washington beast as a whole. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. declares a fight against the Democrat establishment. Let's friggin' go, baby. The media's already entering full-on panic mode. Let's have a conversation about it. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so obviously RFK Jr. must be saying something of actual value and substance if the media is throwing a hissy fit, working their hardest to try to censor RFK Jr.'s speech. On both CNN and MSNBC, they cut away from the RFK Jr. speech.
These are live pictures from Phoenix, Arizona, where Kennedy is expected to say publicly what he's already made official in a court filing, that he will endorse Donald Trump. Perhaps no coincidence, Trump is set to hold a campaign rally tonight with a special unnamed guest in Glendale, Arizona. That's just 20 minutes from where RFK is right now. Joining me now, New York Times investigative reporter Suzanne Craig, MSNBC contributor Jonathan.
To now dropping out and relinquishing the title of Democrat, he get a series of complaints about the party. We're of course going to continue watching his remarks. There's a back and forth over whether he's going to endorse former President Donald Trump. We're going to break that down on the other side of a quick break. Stay with CNN.
Oh, they so badly want to censor him, essentially proving his point. Kamala Harris takes to the stage, gives a garbage, totally dishonest, packed with lies, divisive speech. They play the whole thing, then of course in the panel discussions later, wow, the greatest speech ever.
So I bought a $500 bottle of Creative Rentis because it's the world's most popular fragrance, potentially of all time. I mean, it's won by royalty. It's a masterly concoction of citrus, pineapple, quad of musks, and it's absolutely superb. It's a masterpiece. I mean, it's like in the Hall of Fame of men's fragrances. But for its price, it's just hard to justify spraying it on every day. So if you want the same incredible smell for literally a tenth of the price, you have to try this fragrance by Vault, Executive Number 206. If you're familiar with what is, the second you spray this stuff on, your mind is going to explode at how similar they smell.
I've been taking this nitric oxide flow, and it's been really helping out. I have high blood pressure, but I've been taking this now, and discussions later.
Wow, the greatest speech ever given by literally anyone. Meanwhile, RFK Jr. delivers an actual, hard-hitting, packed with substance speech, and they want to cut away from it. That right there is all that you need to know. There's really not much else, not much other information that you need to really come to a conclusion here. If the media is working to censor it, then it means that it's probably really important and should be at the forefront of discussion heading into the next election. And yep, that's exactly what it was. This is why they hate RFK Jr. so much, because he's willing to say it. He's willing to say this.
But here in America, the DNC also prevented opponents from appearing on the ballot. And our television networks exposed themselves as Democratic Party organs. Over the course of more than a year, in a campaign where my poll numbers reached as much in the high 20s, the DNC lied mainstream media networks maintain a near perfect embargo on interviews with me during his 10-month presidential campaign in 1992. Ross Perot gave 34 interviews on mainstream networks. In contrast, during the 16 months since I declared, ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, and CNN combined gave only 2 live interviews from me. Those networks instead ran a continuous deluge of hit pieces with inaccurate, often filed pejoratives and defamatory smears. Some of those same networks then colluded with DNC to keep me off the debate stage. Representatives of those networks are in this room right now, and I'll just take a moment to ask you to consider the many ways that your institutions have abdicated this really sacred responsibility, the duty of a free press to safeguard democracy and to challenge always the party in power. Instead of me to ask you to consider the many ways that your institutions have abdicated this really sacred responsibility, the duty of a free press to safeguard democracy and to challenge always the party in power. Instead of maintaining that posture of fierce skepticism toward authority, your institutions made themselves government mouthpieces and stenographers for the organs of power. You didn't alone cause the devolution of American democracy, but you could have prevented it. The Democratic Party's censorship of social media was even more of a naked exercise of executive power. President Biden mocked Vladimir Putin's 88% landslide in the Russian elections, observing that Putin has already controlled the Russian press and that Putin prevented serious opponents from appearing on the ballot. But here in America, the DNC also prevented opponents from appearing on the ballot. And our television networks exposed themselves as Democratic Party organs.
No wonder they can't stand him. He's willing to tell the truth about so many things. The media's contempt for free speech, democracy, and an open debate platform, and of course the Democrats' mutually shared belief. The reason they don't want him to talk is because RFK Jr. is saying some of the most important things that need to be said, but of course the things that get in the way of their interests. Folks, it's clear, and it's becoming increasingly clear, that this election is about a couple different things. And one of the main defining elements of this election is the clear distinction between both sides. You have established establishment forces versus an anti-establishment coalition. That is what Donald Trump and RFK Jr. represent. RFK Jr. and Donald Trump aren't controversial because they lie or they're foreign agents, like some of the left-wing talking points would have you believe. They're portrayed as controversial because they're willing to speak truth to power. And also they constantly display an unwillingness to tiptoe around sensitive topics or issues. I want to play this clip and then make a point on the back end.
Percent of our children 120 years ago, when somebody was obese, they were sent to the circus. There were case reports done about them. Obesity was almost unknown. In Japan, childhood obesity rate is 3% compared to 50% here. Half of Americans have pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes. When my uncle was president, I was a boy. Juvenile diabetes was effectively non-existent. A typical pediatrician would see one case of diabetes during his entire career, 40 or 50-year career. Today, 1 out of every 3 kids who walks through his office door is diabetic or pre-diabetic, and the mitochondrial disorder that caused diabetes also causing Alzheimer's, which is now classified as diabetes, and it's costing this country more than our military budget every year. This is a crisis that 77% of our kids are too disabled to serve in the United States military. What is happening to our country? And why isn't this in the headlines every single day? There's nobody else in the world that is experiencing this. This is only happening in America.
You know, again, no wonder the Democrat establishment hates this guy. He's actually talking about the root causes of major issues in the nation. And despite the fact that Democrats pretend to address the root causes, like Kamala Harris's Borders Our title indicated when she was in charge of the southern border, despite the fact that Democrats pretend that they don't want this. They don't want an actual conversation around the physical and mental health crisis that the nation is currently going through. Of course not. That doesn't represent their interests. The effect of these crises are having a devastating impact on the healthcare system, but Democrat leadership isn't interested in that, because as we know, the establishment has no interest in addressing the root causes of any of these issues. They would rather continue to subsidize the problem through endless government programs. They're more concerned with expanding government control, even if it means our children's health continues to decline. That isn't leadership, that's being in the pocket of big pharma and big healthcare. Again, it comes right back to it. They want to keep you dumb, dependent, so they can control you. RFK Jr. is exposing them. It's like I keep saying, people, it's man versus machine. The healthcare issue is the perfect example. The Democrats don't actually care about you. They just want to create more monopolistic government programs that allow them to control entire industries. Healthcare just happens to be one of those industries. I mean, just look at what the Democrats' proposed solution on the southern border is. All they have to do is start deporting people, but instead, no, they'd rather spend billions of dollars expanding the government's asylum system. It's absurd. They do the same thing with homelessness. They don't want to address the root cause. They'd rather continue subsidizing it, and that's where the concept of the whole homeless industrial complex comes from. Donald Trump and RFK Jr. are the greatest threat to the corrupt, uniparty, globalist establishment's interests. And now we have a freaking coalition, baby. It's crazy to think about it, considering America's under a two-party system for the most part. I mean, not legally, but essentially. Party coalition that just formed here. 2 guys standing up against the Washington behemoth, fighting for what's right, fighting for democracy, fighting against the weaponization of the justice system, the weaponization of the media, First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the country's sovereignty, borders. You got 2 courageous cats. I mean, truthfully fighting for the little guy. I just hope people are paying attention. I hope people are tuning in, despite the fact that CNN and MSNBC are doing their darndest to shove this one under the rug. This is one of the coolest things I've ever seen in the realm of politics. It's 2 men versus the Washington machine. This ought to generate a buzz. It's time to literally take it to the man, or I guess in this case, the woman.
That was a good one. It's finally time to take it to the man. Because you're looking at now, Donald Trump was a Democrat rat. Then he became a Republican. JFK was a Democrat rat. Now he's becoming a Republican. But the truth to the matter is, both of them is neither one. Because the Republicans and the Democrat rats are the same motherfucking coin, but different sides. But it's the same fucking coin. The Democrat rats and the Republican clowns, both of them been playing us in the middle. But now we got somebody that's playing them. We got JFK and we got Donald Trump. Oh, this gonna be a good. This gonna be a show here for your ass here.